The last time the Philadelphia Eagles tried to acquire a young defensive star from the Buffalo Bills, it didn't turn out so hot. But Ronald Darby doesn't wear belly shirts, so maybe this one will be a little bit different. Huge news today. Jordan Matthews and a third-round pick sent to Buffalo for 23-year-old cornerback Ronald Darby, who has 2 years left on his rookie contract. What a move by Howie Roseman.
Jordan Matthews, since the day we drafted him, unbelievable teammate, unbelievable worker, obviously incredibly productive, historically productive in Eagles history. Hard to pull a trigger on a trade like that when you're giving up that kind of player in person. And by the same token, obviously, the draft pick is big too. We felt like as we were building this, there are a lot of priorities that go into building a team that consistently competes for championships, and having a defensive back, a corner position that was young and could grow together. This fits with that description. Ronald's got 2 years left on his contract. Obviously played in the National Football League for 2 years. You have the tape of watching him play against the guys we go against. So doesn't make it any easier. We wish Jordan all the best. But we did what we thought was best for our team going forward.
Oh, this was definitely the best move going forward. Oh, yeah. Look at the youth of the cornerbacks now. Sidney Jones, Rasul Douglas, 21. Ronald Darby, Jalen Mills, 23. You got C.J. Smith at 24. So all these young players are all young, and they're all there at the same time. So this could be really, really scary if Sidney Jones develops, if Ronald Darby continues to get better. That is a scary tandem for potentially years to come if they can find a way to extend Ronald Darby.
You know, it's kind of a unique opportunity to have a bunch of young corners at that position. And we spent a lot of time going over this because this is obviously, you know, a big trade for our football team. And you look around the league, and it is a corner-deficient league. It's hard to find those guys. It's hard to find guys who've been solid starters in this league and can play at a high level. And teams that have them aren't really ready to move them. And so when you get them and you need a bunch of them, it's something that we felt like as well as the quarterback position, the offensive line, defensive line, you can never have enough of those guys.
The one thing that you cannot do when judging Ronald Darby is look at those 2 interceptions and think he can't play. 33 pass breakups in the last 2 years, including 21 last season. Yeah, he can ball a little bit. He allows minimal separation. He's always putting himself in the right position. He plays really, really instinctively. He can turn and run, great in bump and run coverage. He's really, really fast. Used to run track in high school. So, yeah, he's a pretty complete player. Here's Howie Roseman with his scouting report.
Well, he's got rare speed. His production on the ball, though, he doesn't have a high interception number, but his PBU number is incredibly high. He's played a variety of coverages. He won a national championship at FSU. You see him go against the players that we go against in our division. You know, the Bills in 2015 played the NFC East. So you have that look. And, you know, when you go into draft, a lot of those things are unknown. So you have a lot of known quantities in him. We have some people in the building who've been around him, which is an important part as well. Again, there's no insurance on any of these things. We do what we think is in the best interest of the team. And then, you know, when you pull the trigger on anything like this, you think about the player you're giving up in the draft pick. But we felt like this was the right decision for us.
Was the third-round pick a little steep? Maybe. But I'm not going to nitpick. I'm not going to complain. This was a position that the Eagles desperately needed to address. And they did it. All right, so it kind of sucks. No draft picks on day 2. But we're also talking about Howie Roseman here. You got 3 fourth-round picks. You really don't think he's going to try to trade back up into day 2? Come on now. Another thing to keep in mind. You got Eric Rowe, potentially playing 50 or more % of his snaps. You got a third-round pick from the Patriots. Compensatory picks as well. You signed a bunch of free agents to 1-year deals. They're going to be free agents at the end of the year. You're not going to sign them all. So you'll get something from that as well. So Howie Roseman explains why he made this trade, and one of the main reasons he did it, well, he's got 2 years left on his deal. He's not a free agent at the end of the season.
Well, the big factor for us was that we weren't getting a free agent back too. It would have been hard for us to take a player. We wouldn't have done the trade if a player had 1 year left on his contract. But in terms of Jordan and his production, it obviously speaks to how he's been since he's been in Philadelphia. Those things have a way of kind of sorting themselves out. But we're just trying to figure out the best way to build our team to consistently compete. And a big part of that is trying to get the corner position right for the long term. And that was really the genesis of why we made this trade.
All right, let's get into Jordan Matthews. Because there's a lot of people that don't like this trade because they see him as Carson Wentz's security blanket. He does have the most slot yards in the NFL since he's come into the league in 2014. I'm going to debunk those empty stats shortly. But think about it this way. It's a lot harder to find an outside cornerback on this roster than there's a slot receiver. Outside corner, who do you got? You had Jalen Mills. And who else? Patrick Robinson? He's been stinking up the joint. Rasul Douglas doesn't look ready yet. 3rd-round rookie. C.J. Smith got obliterated last night. Who are we going to put in there? So I'm willing to sacrifice Jordan Matthews' production to get that outside cornerback spot all fixed up. Instead of there being a huge gaping hole, there's now maybe a minor leak. That's about it. Anyway, let's talk about Matt Collins too, because he was impressive in his debut. And, well, his emergence is definitely a reason why this trade was easier to make.
We joke about the fact that you have inside information up until the first game with the guys because you're seeing them every day during training camp in the off season. And Max, since the day he's been here, has been tremendously consistent. He's obviously a big kid with really good speed, but Coach Groh and our offensive coaching staff have done a great job with him on his routes, consistently catching the football, and really overall, when you look at that group, we have a bunch of young players that we're excited about, and we have a long time to kind of figure it out here with 3 weeks until we have to make any of these decisions.
Let's get into Jordan Matthews and why he's overrated now. So first of all, he always drops the ball at the most inopportune times. He always doesn't drag his feet at the most inopportune times. He's slow like molasses, so he barely moves. At least it doesn't look like he's moving out there. But let's get into his production, his statistics, his most slot yards in the NFL since he's come into the league in 2014. All right, his totals. 225 receptions, 2,673 yards, and 19 touchdowns. But according to Billy Gowton, who went and calculated all of Jordan Matthews' garbage time stats, and guess what? If you think a lot of his production came in garbage time, you'd be correct. Oh, it's emphatic. 20% of his catches, 42 of them, 20% of his yards, 549, and 9 touchdowns came in garbage time. 9 of his 19. Talk about producing when it doesn't matter. Oh, he also got a higher volume of targets because he was the best receiver on a unit that was despicable at the position. So you look at last year, 117 targets, led the team. DGB, Dorial Green Beckham, had 74, which was second. 2015, he had 127 targets. Nelson Aguilar only had 44, that was second. So as you can see, those stats, they're empty. At least I think so. And LaShawn McCoy, oh, he's not too happy about the trade either. Yeah, he'd rather have Sammy Watkins back.
Well, I think that when you look at the wide receiver group as a whole and really where we were last year and looking at it in this year and how they've performed throughout the spring, and obviously a part of it's last night as well, that group, the competition at that group has been really encouraging for us. Obviously, Nelson's had a really good spring, and really the young players have taken a step up, which is a great testament to our coaching staff. And we're excited about some of their futures. And when we looked at it, we were concerned if we could keep a bunch of them. But by the same token, also we knew that it was an opportunity to add to our back end, which is an important part.
With the suspension of Ezekiel Elliott and now the acquisition of Ronald Darby, I believe the Eagles are now the favorites to win the NFC East. Yeah! I really do like this trade a lot. I really, really do, and here's why. So I've been harping all offseason how I'm really, really concerned about the defense and stopping the quick three-step passing game. The reason why that's important, if you can't stop the quick three-step passing game, you can't pressure the quarterback. Can't pressure the quarterback if he gets the ball out in 3 seconds or less. But now, you got Ronald Darby, you add him to the mix. Jalen Mills looks like he could be average this year. So all of a sudden, you can stop that quick three-step passing game a little bit more consistently. Ronald Darby does that exceptionally well. He jumps a lot of routes. So that allows maximum effectiveness from the defensive line. That allows Derek Barnett, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Timmy Jernigan, whoever, to get after the quarterback a little bit more. Actually, a lot more.